Welcome back, and today we are playing out the premium Seahawk in the French stack tree, and this thing is identical to the Seahawk that you will find in the British stack tree, except it has AIM-9Bs, and it's identical to the one in the German stack tree if you have that one, because right now it's not up for purchase anymore. In terms of a premium, this thing is pretty damn good. It's very consistent. The AIM-9Bs get some pretty free kills at 8.0 because a lot of your games are going to be at 7.7, sometimes 7.3 and 7.0, and a lot of guys just don't know what to do when a missile is coming their way, and a lot of guys are simply not looking around for it. So these AIM-9Bs, while not the best missiles in the game, get quite a bit of mileage because a lot of people just don't even bother dodging them. And I can't really blame them because you shouldn't be seeing missiles in your 7.0 262. But I digress. And then we have the guns, 800 rounds of Hispano Mark Vs. Not really much to say about them other than they do decent damage. They're pretty decent in terms of range. They're just pretty good guns, and having 800 rounds means you can hose everyone down, which is great when you're trying to frag out and get as much RP as possible. Because it means that you can just kind of hose people, and even if you use 200 rounds per kill, you still have enough ammo to get 4, plus perhaps 1 or 2 missile kills. So overall, in terms of getting frags, it's pretty good. Now the frame in itself, well, it's just kind of there. It's not very fast. It's actually on the slow end, especially right now with the Sabres and MiG-15s flying around at 8.0 and 8.3. So you are going to be on the defensive a lot. Now luckily the maneuverability is pretty decent, mainly due to the fact that these flaps are very strong and you still have very good retention. And the retention is something that you will need because the acceleration isn't really there. It does look like it has 2 engines, but it's actually 1 engine with 2 nozzles, I'm pretty sure. Now back in the day this thing was bugged and they acted like 2 engines. I made a video on that, a little bit of a shit post. I'll link it in the description if you are curious about it. And back then this thing was an absolute menace, but having double thrust will of course do such a thing. But right now you have to just kind of work with your team, and you are not a single carry plane. Now of course in the down tiers you are gonna absolutely destroy Hortons, 262A1s and such planes, but you don't have to expect full down tiers very often because 8.0 and especially 8.7 is a very common BR, and you will be pulled into those 9.0 matches pretty damn often, and then this plane really isn't that great. The AIM-9Bs, they just don't really cut it anymore because people actually expect them. 9.0s, you have the Sabre CL-13B for example, and it will absolutely rinse you. And it just isn't really fun to fight against. Now in this kind of scenario, I would say get the Meteor Mark 8 instead. So overall I do think it's the better plane, other than the fact that the AIM-9Bs are a nice utility to have. That's really the only benefit that it has. Now here, we got our tail shot off by a singular 50 cal. Now we are still flying around, and you can see that my plane still somewhat maneuvers, but in a second you're gonna see full elevator pull, and that's this right here. And I'm gonna use the terrain here to dodge the missiles. This is keyboard control inputs. I'm pulling as hard as I can, and you can tell that this thing just doesn't want to listen. Dodge the second missile by flying it into the terrain as well, and now we are going 570 kilometers an hour, and I'm gonna try to reverse an A5 and an A4E. Now this guy misses the easiest shot of his life, and then the A5 does the exact same thing. We pull up under the A4E, the A4E goes vertical, we drop the flaps a little bit to decrease our radius, and because we are now behind him again, we can kind of just drift into him with the flaps, and at these super low speeds you won't really notice the lack of an elevator because you don't have that much airflow going over it anyway. We dome the A4E, we then are still very slow, and the A5 manages to pull back into this, but because we are so slow, he basically flies directly into my guns and he instantly gets crit. Now this gameplay here is not to show you how great I am with a damaged plane. These guys are literally killing themselves, but the thing is that you still have to fly it this way even if you have both your elevators, because it's all about position. You want to wrap up the fights as quick as you can, because if you don't, you're just gonna find yourself completely out of energy. We got hit for 1 frame by a G91R4, so that's 4 50 cals, and our entire plane is busted up. J34 comes in, trying to commit 9/11 on his behalf, use the terrain a little bit, and because of that we are now able to get directly underneath him. He gets a shot here, but we just get out of his nose, and it's the exact same thing again, except this time I don't really have to use my flaps all too much, because it's a J34 and he's also pretty slow. But the second he goes vertical and we manage to kind of get behind him, we will just hose him down and send him back to the hangar. Now what about if your plane isn't completely busted up? Now it's gonna be roughly the same, and in this case we have an energy advantage, and the A4E, well, it bleeds a lot of speed very quickly and we don't. So all we really want to do here is make him bleed his energy, make sure that he can't pull his nose onto us with the AOA that he has, and we just kind of wait for him to drop down. Now he does have more thrust than us and acceleration is slightly higher, but because it's a delta wing and he doesn't hold a speed whatsoever, I'm not really too worried. Now he should have just ran away and extended, because then I am never able to kill him. Luckily for us, the A4E decided to take the fight, and thus he gets also sent back to the hangar. Here we start on the 6 of an F2H, and when you're on the 6 of someone, this thing is pretty deadly, but it's not about that kill, it's about the next one that's about to come up. It's the F2H that decides to pop up on our left, and we're only going about 660 IAS. He is likely going to be faster, so I don't have to worry about dropping my speed. He will overshoot naturally if he doesn't try to air brake, and he doesn't try to do so, and thus I will basically instantly slot directly onto his 6. He notices his mistake and tries to run away, but at that point I am way too close, and that is never going to happen. Now, as you've noticed in these clips, it's about being slower, wrapping the fight up quickly. Because the second it goes prolonged, there's a very big likelihood that you end up being dead. Now something like an F2H is of course dogfightable. It kind of starts becoming an issue when stuff like G91Y starts showing up. Now here we are a bit slower and thus our radius is smaller. We are able to pull out of his guns. We bait him up for our teammates and he instantly gets pieced apart. G91Y is down, and now we just have to look around and make sure that we don't die to someone else. Now I do want to pitch up for this IL-28 still, because I don't want to chase him throughout the end of the match. And the first time G91Y shows up, denies us the ability. Second time CL13B shows up, and again we are going to be slower than him. I don't have to air brake, I don't have to use my flaps too much, I just need to use them a little bit. And again I will reverse him almost instantaneously. And now the issue comes from the fact that you are fighting something that is just so much better than you, that even though he is 0.5 in front of you, he is just so much faster that it kind of becomes a absolute pain in the ass to hit. He's a lot faster, he's a lot more nimble, he can roll around on a whim, and even while doing all of that, he will out-accelerate me. Look at that. After all he did, he is still faster than us. Now here he's gonna fly perfectly straight, gives me a nice deflection. We crit him, second burst severs him, and then we notice the F-84F on the bottom. Of course a very high priority target, but he's just about in range and he's probably not gonna be looking behind him, because he's only looking at that bombing point, and boom, just like that, we get a bit of a double kill. Now we start diving in and I see another G91, and I of course want to shoot this one down as well. Unfortunately we're going a little bit fast, we're going about 900, and I'm not really able to get the guns lined up like I would like. G91 pops up over the horizon here, or over the mountain, and we just kind of pitch in. We're much slower than him, as we have been throughout the rest of this video, and because he's still rocking 4 of his missiles, we just outmaneuver him so damn hard that I am again instantly on his 6. Now try to use these flaps as much as you can without overusing them. And now that sounds a little bit counterintuitive, I know, and if you watch my flap guide, you know the flaps will increase your performance for a little bit. But if you get something easy, it is of course never going to be free. You are going to be sacrificing energy, and energy is something that you don't have a lot of. But keep in mind, if you are able to kill someone with flaps in the first turn, it's better in this thing than trying to not use flaps and kill them in the second or even the third turn. And there's a very big likelihood that if you spend too long on the same guy, they simply run away and now you really wasted all of your energy. Now the trick is though to not use the flaps throughout the entirety of the team. Just give yourself a small boost, you're already slower, you hold your speed quite nicely, and you are going to get the position anyway due to the nature of this plane. And in the 1v1 you very often don't even need the flaps, but this is Era B and you have to worry about multiple people, so being a bit more aggressive actually helps you out a tremendous amount. Now into the fight here, 2 guys start themselves out directly in front of me, so it's very easy for me to just piece them apart, get the crit on the first one, severe the second, and we simply leave. We're only going 500, we need to start diving a little bit again, because we don't have the acceleration to simply straight line it. And there's a lot of planes that are extremely dangerous when you're flying the Seahawk. We have a CL-13B, which is probably the biggest pest. It's very close to something like a MiG-15 bis, which is also very annoying to deal with. But at least they don't roll very well. and at least the 37 is somewhat hard to aim, whereas the CL has the same level of performance in the 1v1, except it can actually roll, and the 50 cals, well, I don't think they need an introduction, so you don't want to deal with that thing. The issue is if the CL13B plays it right, even if an A5 plays it right, you can't really touch them whatsoever, and they are extremely annoying to deal with in this thing. Now the A5 kind of turns in front of us, gives us a free kill, so we take it, and then the F86K comes in. Now the F86K, well, it has the energy, it's a bit of a brick, and if he flies directly straight into your 20 mils, it's not going to be much of an issue anyway. Seahawk pops up, it's the same one with the missiles, he just shot one, so he probably only has one left, and at this point, I'm not feeling very good about myself. I'm going 600, MiG-15 above us. There's another one coming in on the left side of our plane. So I thought to myself, I want to pitch in and see if I can spray him down right here. But he notices me. He pulls out of the way. Second MiG pops up. And at this point, I thought I'm about to get 2v1'd and my teammates are all chasing the CL. So I'm going to be alone for a little bit. Now, luckily, we have a J29 behind us and our teammates are actually paying attention and they are starting to turn around as well. So I get a little bit more room to actually breathe here. And because of that, I can head on this MiG-15. Now at 1 kilometer, a bit of spray, he wasn't lined up yet. We piece him apart, send him back to the hangar. And now we can just give chase to the other MiG-15 that is on the J29. Now my squad mate has it. I'm not really too worried, so I already preemptively start turning towards the CL13. Now he kills the A4E, and then it's 2v1, and we can't really touch each other. Vodka and I are covering each other, the CL13, while having a lot of performance, just can't really find an angle on us, and eventually he runs out of fuel, and I strafe him and kill a G91R3 somewhere in the middle of that fight. Not the most interesting footage, and I just want to clarify, the CL13B did nothing wrong. Yes, he was passive, but he had to be. It's just extremely boring footage because nothing really happened. He did everything right. No shame here. I'm just trying to clarify why I cut off the clip. Now here's a bit of a down tier, and then this thing is just an absolute menace. Seahawk pops up behind us. I'm gonna preemptively turn for the AIM-9B. It almost curves in because I'm only going 600 kilometers an hour. We managed to dodge it, and now we want to actually keep turning into the other direction to set up for the reversal and make sure that he doesn't shoot a second missile off from that rear aspect. We give him a hard angle, we kind of turn in, he's a little bit faster, which means that I'm going to get a lot of position here. Use the flaps a little bit, it is a symmetrical matchup, and I just want to get behind him as quick as I can. And you can see how much position I gained by doing that. Now all I need to do is actually hit my shots. I missed the first easy shot, then I missed the second easy shot. And then 2 times the charm, I guess, and we just sell his plane as spare parts after we take over literally everything. He goes down, or actually he flies up without a pilot, and now we want to get a little bit of speed because the MiG-9 is coming in, and he's actually going a lot quicker than we are. So we kind of give him a hard angle, we pitch up over his nose, expecting him to turn back in, but he actually goes straight and flies directly for my teammate. He then turns left and gives me another free shot. Get a lot of damage, but it doesn't really do anything. That sounds counterintuitive, I know. I mean, I hit a lot of rounds, but it didn't really do that much damage. He is fucked up though, so I'm just gonna leave him and I'm gonna fly over here to get my speed up a little bit and get out of that furball. The SK-60 is a plane that I don't really want to tangle with. Not with the energy that I have currently. I don't really mind dealing with an SK-60, but when I'm going 500 myself, nah, I'm good. Horton dives on us from the clouds, and as I said earlier, people at 7.0 don't expect missiles. I didn't shoot it instantly, and then I noticed that he was still flying straight, so I thought, well, why not try, and just like that, we get it severe. The MiG-9 gets put down like my dog, and now the LA-174 comes in. Now this is an LA-15 copy, except it's the more rare marketplace variant. And this thing is gonna be an absolute pain in the ass. I can't really contest this thing, especially with how slow we are right now. And he is prematurely turning, so I can't missile him, which is the right thing to do. So that means that I have to peel off. MiG-9 comes in, gonna set up for the reversal. But he doesn't go for us, which is great. I'm gonna try to get out of here because I'm not going particularly quick. MiG-9 comes in and he's kind of going to area deny me by simply being there. Luckily the MiG-9 retention is pretty abysmal, and because he did a 180, I'm now gonna be faster than him, and I'm just gonna be leaving them both alone. LA-174 is likely going to come back for me. I just have this feeling, so I want to set up for that. The MiG-9 is now turning around, and I'm just thinking I want to lick him up so we can 2 or 3v1 the LA-174. Now the MiG-9 here is making it extraordinarily easy for me to kill him. He kind of just turns directly in front of me. He can't really help it. He's trying to fight like 6 people at the same time. We get a severe, we take his plane apart, and we manage to kill him. LA-174 comes back in, and I feel like he's going for me a little bit too much. I'm not sure why that is. He goes for us, we pull up, our radius is smaller, and we just kind of sit inside of his radius. He then overshoots, and we do the same thing we have been doing this entire video. We are slower than someone and we reverse him. Now again, my guns weren't doing very well this game, so we get a shitload of hits. The FNF then hits him even more, and eventually he finally dies. Incredible. And then for the last kill, there's a MiG-15 that has been chased by someone else, shoot a missile off, and that is going to be game. And that's all I have for you today. I got some longer videos in the works for the next 2 or 3 weeks, so stay tuned for that. But until then, thank you all for watching, and you'll see me in the next one.